Hey guys, and welcome to section 2. This one's called Creating Position in the Relationship, and it's all about the doctor syndrome. So sales agents have for long been falling from grace. For years, I've seen the perception of salespeople deteriorate as more and more lose the skills that made them persuasive, that made them influencers. And in fact, we're now in a totally different age and business has changed as well. Salespeople can often learn more from the influencers that they see on social media than they can from their peers who are still using outdated ideas and replacing skill with blunt force trauma.
Aggressive salesman dealing meat out of his pickup truck has some people in Kokomo concerned. Eyewitness News reporter David McAnally on their beef with the stranger that's been knocking on their doors.
He kind of just knocked on the door, and I unlocked it just a little bit just to see what he wanted.
Through that crack in the door, she says the man told her that he was selling meat from the back of his truck. He said that he'd sold meat to somebody else at the business about a year before. He asked her if she needed anything. She felt intimidated. She felt he was aggressive in his style. She didn't feel comfortable.
The image of a salesperson clubbing a prospect over the head and taking them back to their cave kind of comes to mind. But the biggest opportunities in life come from change. So you need to change with the times. I feel that's key in sales. Why? Well, as salespeople, our role is to influence behavior and increase the revenue of the companies we work for and for ourselves. How we're perceived by our prospects is intrinsic to this. Therefore, we need to know how to adopt the right position in the relationship to cause maximum influence. So I started my career in property sales at probably the best in class of real estate agents, certainly in the UK. It was a company called Foxtons, started by one of the best businessmen I've ever had the privilege to meet, John Hunt. John's a legend in real estate. In 1981, he opened his agency Foxtons in Notting Hill, and over the next 20 years grew it to be the most powerful agency in London, with over 20 branches when I joined them in 2003. Working at Foxtons was like being part of the best looking people, the best company cars, the best properties, the best commissions, and the best training. It was an amazing company culture, and it all came from the inspiration of that one man, John Hunt. In 2007, John sold his business at the height of the property market bubble for $370 million, and almost the very next day the property market fell off a ledge and crashed. Timing is everything, but there is no more shrewd operator than John Hunt. However, that's a side story. The real story is to highlight the position that property salespeople once held and the public perception of them now. Property professionals, estate agents, once upon a time, did not occupy the high street in the same way they do now. Estate agents were normally in offices and professional environments on the first floor or above, and certainly you couldn't just walk in to any old agent and have an informal chat or make an inquiry. You had to make an appointment, and they were constantly busy. You had to come with all your paperwork and ID, all your finances had to be in order, or an agent wouldn't waste their time with you. You arrive at the appointment, the agent would keep you waiting until past the appointment started, you'd be angry and annoyed, but you'd subsequently sit with the agent and incidentally, you wouldn't complain. They would then ask you a series of questions, which you would answer. They would then produce a report and tell you what properties you could buy. You would visit the properties with the agent and then you would choose one. You didn't have more than one agent, you didn't get more choice than you were given. You couldn't flex, but you would leave satisfied. And for many years, this is the way that property agents sold property. They were professionals. They had a permanent relationship with their buyers and sellers. They had a process and people that came to see them. Albeit the process was frustrating, but the buyers took the agent's advice as sacrosanct and moved forward. So, let's have a look at this. The buyers had a problem. The buyers made an appointment. The buyers arrived early for the appointment. They were seen late, and they didn't complain. They would then ask questions. The agent would make notes, and then they'd give you a report, and you would buy, and you would be happy. Now let me ask you, what other process does that sound like? It sounds very much to me like my last visit to my doctor, and that's the point. Salespeople so often lose the position in the relationship because they don't act in a way which makes their prospect feel like patience. Salespeople have lost the power that made them so strong, and now they've got to take it back. You need to find ways to create a position in the relationship, a position of authority, a position of influence. You're not a waiter, you're not an order taker. Your prospect may want you to be, but you can't let them bend you to their will. You are not that person. You're a professional, you're attractive, and you're powerful. And John Hunt understood this. What he was brilliant at was grabbing people's attention, the right sort of attention, and creating demand. He then put that demand into a conveyor belt of process, a process designed to put the Foxtons agent in the correct position to do the deal. Not a process which would detract from the role of a professional and turn them into an order taker, but one which would enhance their position as an expert, the perception of their capability, and constantly highlight to the customer that they were in demand. He trained his agents to be strong and powerful influencers by adopting the same attributes as doctors, hence the name, the doctor syndrome. And you have to ask yourself, what's the psychology? Why do we listen to doctors and follow their advice with faith and precision, yet we might not be so easily influenced by our realtor or our insurance guy? Why? Well, a lot of it's fear and the desire to stay alive. And this shows you a powerful tool in which we're going to discuss in more detail later. But it also is because they're an expert and they've helped others and because they act the right way. So let's look at how doctors act. Number one, they're always busy. In fact, you're lucky to be seen. They've always got the right medicine to heal your illness. They're confident. They show you they've helped others. Look at their waiting rooms. They have the knowledge. They are the expert. They ask questions. They make notes. And they prescribe the solution. One of the reasons salespeople fail to convey the doctor syndrome and hence are unable to engender those feelings in their prospect is that they're desperate, and it shows. Think of it. When that person pursues you, and that person chases you, and that person kisses your backside and puts you up on a pedestal, that person's too available. That person doesn't necessarily make you feel safe. It's not what I would call attractive behavior. So I was a good salesperson before I started at Foxtons, but I improved drastically after my time there because I started to understand this. There was a guy there called Will. He'd been there about a year before I'd arrived. He was much posher than me, and he turned to me once after seeing me energetically and enthusiastically do my job and suggested, politely and poshly, that I shouldn't always make my services and properties so available to my prospects. And that threw me. What he actually said to me was, sometimes you have to take things away from someone so they can understand its value. And after a while I understood what he meant. He didn't just mean it with respect to myself, but he also meant it with respect to my product. A good example? Well, don't allow a prospect to keep having access to you to see a product. Don't let anyone waste your time. I'm not talking about being obstructive, but understand that making yourself too accessible is not attractive. It's not a nice quality. When a doctor's surgery tells you they can see you only at 3:15, you invariably find a way to make the appointment. Someone who is unpressured, someone who has a high sense of their own self-worth, someone who's a professional, someone who's attractive, and I mean attractive in the sense of being a professional, an expert. And I do get it. To many of you, this will be second nature. Yet to others, this will be a challenge, something that scares you. I want you to know, we've all been there. The fact you're here means you've already set yourself apart from the crowd. You've stepped up and you've made a decision to act. And from that position, you will improve. Keep going and look for moments in these stories and training that you can connect with and you can resonate strongly with. Let me tell you how it all came together for me. How I started to become the person who could act in a way that conveyed more power, more influence than ever before. And it's sometimes the simplest or smallest moments that can make a difference. John Hunt had an amazing way of saying very few words that would carry massive weight, and it was always a skill that I hugely respected. And it worked, because nobody worked harder than Foxtons agents. One day a week, we would arrive at the office at 7 a.m. for a pre-day meeting, and invariably, every few weeks, John Hunt would sit in on the meetings, which blew my mind. We had over 20 offices around London. After one particularly long meeting with Lizzie, John Hunt turned to all his young agents and said, guys, what we do isn't rocket science. In fact, when it comes to dealing with properties, we simply open the door. To be successful in this game, you need to be the son or daughter that your mother or father always wanted. Be polite, be knowledgeable, be bold and confident, but never pander to anyone. You are worth way more than that. And make sure your prospect knows this, always. That resonated with me because I had a very strong mother and a very kind and gentle father. It gave me an image of what real strength and real power was. It was a blend of all my skill sets, all of my personalities and moods. I was that person, and now I just had to show the rest of the world. I'd say it resonated with me then, because maybe I didn't know who I was at that stage of my life. Maybe I was still trying to find me. I can tell you now that whether I'm the son or daughter that my mum or dad always wanted is actually irrespective to me. What I am is the person that I am. And actually, that's the next stage. When you don't know who you are, other people's words can help guide you. The truth is, guys, I can't tell you who you are. The world can't tell you who you are. Only you can do that. And in reality, the world's waiting to hear from you. So maybe it's time to show them. Now, if you're at that stage, you're a powerful person. And in fact, you should automatically be a powerful salesperson. But sometimes people just need to be told, be yourself and show the world. And I tend to find this is more so the case with salespeople who feel like they've got to be a character that they're not. Listen, you do have to adapt in sales. It's sales. But you need to know to do it in your own voice is what's required to be truly authentic, likable and powerful. However, to give him his dues, John Hunt's words do show that powerful statements, quotes, even a catchphrase can enhance the message and create authority by the person who's saying it. Why do you think at the beginning of each section there's a quote? Why do you think politicians are constantly looking for that perfect 3 to 7 second soundbite that will resonate with their audience and which they'll be constantly remembered for? It's something I employ constantly. And summing up your teachings or messages in a short, powerful statement or quote creates that authority. And it's the basis of emotive and powerful communication. So the message we're trying to convey is in sales, you need to be asking questions and getting your prospect to do the talking. You need to know as much about them and make them feel heard, as well as ensuring you do your job. And the big statement would be 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in those proportions. You can go a stage further. You can enhance this message by adding visuals and it becomes a powerful message. So you've got to think about this when you're trying to create attention, when you're trying to attract people into your message. So when I look back on it, I realized something about people and the process of sales. Prospects need to be looking at you eye to eye. You need to be on their level. And if you're not, it's because they want to pigeon you as an order taker, as a waiter without power. If you want to control the situation, you can't let this happen. You need to use your skills in the game to bring yourself eye to eye, or to be slightly above them so they look up to you. Those are the only 2 positions from which you can influence and control. If not, if the prospect looks down on you, congratulations, you're an order taker. But don't worry, and certainly don't despair. If you're not very good at it, you're in the right place because you soon will be excellent at it. Deals are done and sales are made eye to eye on the same level, or they look up to the salesman. Anything else and you're just a meaningless cog in the course of the prospect controlling their own scenario and circumstance. Putting in an order basically. You may as well be a website. Don't be a website, be you. It's the most powerful person you can be. So let's summarize. How we're perceived as salespeople is a significant contributor to our success, or lack thereof. Salespeople often fail to act in a way that creates a position of authority and influence. Worse, they act like waiters and order takers. Great salespeople understand the doctor syndrome and act accordingly. Next, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Influence is established and sales are made eye to eye on the same level, or the prospect looks up to you. So it's bonus round, guys. I'm going to ask you a question. What type of animal are you? It's one of the most commonly asked and cliche questions at job interviews, and always one of the worst answered. Chances are a lot of people are thinking, I'm a lion, I'm a tiger. Other notable mentions have included, I'm an eagle. But why are people so quick to jump to these alpha symbols? Is it because they're really lions, tigers? If you were a lion and a prospect walked into your den, what happens? Does the fact that you're a lion intimidate them? Does it make them feel nervous? Does it make them want to leave? What happens then? Doesn't really sound right, does it? In what universe does it make sense for a lion to be in sales? I think that's saying a lot more about the person's own self-confidence, or lack thereof. A basic human observation is that most of us live in fear, live in anxiety, and we're worried constantly. Even if we're not aware of it consciously, these emotions are always there, pushing us and directing and influencing our behaviour. The person that says they're a lion says so because they think they have to be. They think it's what's expected. and what people want to hear. It's based on that person's fear. So are they really a lion or a mouse who just wants to be a lion? Because the two are totally different. For some, and this is something seen throughout life, the person who often conveys themselves as being overtly dominant can actually be inherently submissive, or vice versa. It comes down to an individual's own fear of their true self as to how and why they may convey a different first impression, especially in stressful situations that may have an element of anxiety. A defense mechanism will go up. The truth is that fear is a reaction in the brain, and so therefore it isn't real. It only exists in our mind. That doesn't make it any less powerful, but it does mean it can be controlled and even eradicated. And when you have that element of mastery of what I'm putting forward to you in the following course, then you will have beaten your fears. And then I want you to come back here and ask yourself that question once again. What sort of animal am I? Let me tell you what I am. I'm a chameleon.